High schoolers of Reddit, what is the biggest oh shit's about to go down moment that you've experienced with either students, teachers, or even both? Officers of discipline in my high school let 2 students box. Literally with boxing gloves. Atop the quadrangle stage. The officers, among them being teachers too, did that to let the kids settle their little fight beforehand. These officers tasked other students to film it. So the students did. These officers also tasked them to upload it on Facebook. Needless to say, it made the national news. My dad grew up in South America, and whenever there was a fight, the PE teacher would give the kids gloves and have them go at it. After that, he'd make them shake hands and move on. My school had the usual cliques. There were the smokers, the jocks, the nerds, and then a big mix of just everyone else. One day the smokers from my school and the smokers from the high school across the street started arguing. These arguments went on for a few weeks. Basically about smoking territory or some shit. One day I went and got a burger and then came back and parked in front of the smoke pit. As soon as I did, the other school's smokers started walking over with knives, chains, baseball bats, etc. I was like, yep, shit's about to go down. They had made threats and someone phoned the police to give them some info on what was happening and what might happen. The school resource officer walked out and resolved the issue. I just sat there eating my burger. Not currently in high school. But when I was a freshman there were a few before moving schools. Topping the list was definitely when a kid wouldn't take his hat off his head, so a screaming match started. Teacher takes hat off of kid. Kid throws a chair at the teacher. Teacher puts hat in the microwave and turns it on. Kid dumps deer urine on teacher. This was in South Carolina and he had plans to go hunting that evening. Not just carrying around deer piss. Anyways, that teacher was put on leave during a lawsuit, and the temp teacher was a family friend who cheated on her husband and was going through a divorce. Her son was also in the class. That made things interesting. We had a legitimate food fight in 8th grade. I remember the rumors being spread. And then the girl standing up on the table and yelling food fight. The moment the first few people started throwing food was the moment I knew shit was going down. We had to eat lunch in classrooms in complete silence for the rest of the year. All field trips cancelled. Worth it. We had one in school, UK, where everyone was in year 11. It was the last week before leaving. People knew about it and were hyped. One of the popular girls shouted food fight and threw slices of pizza across the cafe. Someone threw an apple across the room and it smacked her dead in the face, knocking her over and busting her nose, so she ran out crying. Everyone pissed themselves. She didn't come back for the rest of the week, lol. A kid got another kid's girlfriend pregnant without their knowledge. Kid thinks he can keep it a secret. Girlfriend rats him out. The next day at school everyone hears screaming coming from the hallway before the first bell rang. This kid got beaten to a pulp, got his jaw broken, and broke his nose. It took 4 security guards to restrain the enraged boyfriend from beating the shit out of this kid. The girlfriend stood there and had an expression of WTF on her face. A fight broke out between 4 kids selling pot during lunch. The lunchroom erupted. Teachers started dragging kids out. A youngish band teacher picks up a kid to haul him out. Lady next to starts screaming fuck him up. FCK him up. It was her son and she told him to go after a teacher. My neighbor's Karen of a grandmother came storming over to my school bus while we were still in the parking lot. The driver hadn't closed the doors yet, so she got on the bus. My brother was sat at the back. I was at the front, just behind the door. Karen starts screaming at my brother while the bus driver tries to keep her from getting on the bus. My brother starts screaming back. She's accusing him of bullying her granddaughter, our neighbor. She tells him to get off the bus so she can beat him. Or something. I don't even know. He stands up as if to say go on. Then school security comes over and pulls her away. The bus driver closes the door and we leave her. Fun. A female student's mother came into class in the 6th grade to confront the teacher about her child being on detention even though she brought a note for why she couldn't do pay that day. All I remember, aside from this student's mother yelling at our teacher, was her saying she wanted to take our teacher outside. Our teacher asked if it was okay with us if she did go outside. We stupidly all said yes, not knowing what it meant. In the end she had one of us kids run and get our principal. They ended up arguing outside. We heard it all. The parent was a complete psycho with a daughter that had lots of attitude and personal problems. Poor kid. Hope she turned out alright. Teacher resigned the following year and never went back. Hardly blame her. Our dean of students, the disciplinarian, was a former Marine, and one day two dudes started fighting in the cafeteria and he vaulted over one of those old school long cafeteria tables to get to them and break them up. The caf went silent when he did, lol. In 3rd grade I remember there was a girl who had anger issues because of some sort of mental problem. One day in class, she was really behind on work and seemed really stressed, muttering to herself. I don't remember what the teacher said, but this girl just f***ing snapped. She just flipped her desk and grabbed the teacher by the throat and was like, now you listen to me or something, and started going off. Everyone just sat there shocked. But looking back it's actually a pretty funny sight. A small chubby 3rd grader just scaring the shit out of a grown-ass woman, lol. She ended up getting sent to a special school or something. It's kind of a shame because I talked to her in art class once and she was actually a really nice person. It was just clear that she had some issues and would snap sometimes. Never heard about her again. I was in one of the classes that had all the bad kids, the ones that always talk and piss off the teacher and never get their work done. One day teacher had already had a bad day and those kids were extra rowdy. And teacher snapped. He smacked a metal ruler down on his desk so loud the entire class went silent. Started cursing us out and got his code red box down off the shelf and kept it open on his lap the rest of class. And kicked 4 kids out. Code red box was significant because he was an ex-Marine who told us he was allowed certified to have a gun on campus and alluded to the fact that it was in that box, but didn't explicitly say it. That's what terrified us. Turns out he was bullshitting about the gun to get us to shut up. He actually had bear spray and a large metal pipe in there. He had respect for the rest of the year. I remember we had to shut lunch down early and they played an alarm. All because a mini riot started. Our school integrated and everyone eats at once lunch called one lunch, and within the month we had issues. A guy slapped a girl who was talking shitty and then a bunch of her guy friends started to fight him. This escalated to the point where random people were getting tossed into the mix and our resource officers couldn't handle it. Smaller fights started to break out in the hallways until they shut down lunch. The alarm scared the shit out of us. We all thought there was a shooter or something. Edit. The way our lunch system worked was everyone, about 2,000 students, had an hour to get their lunch and they could go anywhere in the school to eat. Before that we had lunch periods during our 3rd class of the day where they would split it up in 4 small periods and you had to stay in the cafeteria. There was a fist fight in the snow one year and at one point one guy got his shirt ripped. So he stopped the fight to take his shirt off and handed it to one of us to hold so it wasn't just sitting in a pile of snow. As that was happening the other dude punched him in the back of the head. Ripped Shirt responded by whipping out a knife just to end the fight because the other guy basically fought with no honor. The head puncher ran away. Soon came back with a big ass friend and they started chucking nearby firewood at Niffy Mick No Shirt until he biked off. The rest of us were dying laughing the whole time because it was silly how much it escalated. I was late to class but I just pointed out the window at where we were and said oh sorry there was a knife fight and fell into the lesson with everyone in shock. The nerd table, Reddit we're looking at you, and the football player table had a long running tradition of throwing stuff at each other during lunch. One day, my best friend chucked a thing of McDonald's barbecue sauce and it exploded all over his shirt. The football coach lunch teacher ran over. Bright red with smoke coming out of his ears while a distraught football player with red stuff all over his shirt was screaming at us. The coach gets to us and yells WHO did that. We were all pussies and ratted out our friend. He yells fucking nerds and flips our table ruining lunch. Plus we had to clean it up. We saw our friend again. But he was a different man. A quieter man. But he was a man. At the homecoming bonfire, where it was a tradition to TP or spray shaving cream on the incoming class of freshmen, there was something in the air that October. Something darker than usual, on the hint of winter air that told of trouble on the way. When the field lights went off and the fire was high, people also started throwing around eggs, punctured bottles of mayonnaise, and water balloons filled with Naya, calling for the death of kids who had the audacity to be freshmen. The dean was not happy. The teachers were not happy. The police who had to show up to get things in hand were not happy. Neither were a lot of male sophomores and juniors who still looked like freshmen who lost some hair that night. At least the folks wilding out didn't, to my recollection, target any young ladies for epilating. There were definitely some with tear streaks of mascara running over the mayonnaise on their faces though. School in the middle of Wisconsin. A hick who was known for being in trouble all the time in my high school was sitting in the cafeteria at lunch and dropped the N-bomb on one of the few people of color in the school. What this kid didn't know is that the guy he just used a slur on came from Southside Chicago. That kid got ripped off his seat and stomped on as hard as possible for about a full minute. We could see blood pooling under the table when he was finally separated from the attacker. He was taken out of the school by the first responders, where he had 5 facial reconstruction surgeries. One more. This one was actually me. This one needs some backstory. I was in middle school and I was in advanced math, so I went to the high school every morning for math. And we had to take a bus back to the middle school for the rest of the day. And this bus driver was always late. And plus this bus was so small that some of the kids had to sit on the floor. And there were like 40 some kids screaming and yelling. So one day, like every other, she pulls up 10 minutes late, and as normal we crowd on the bus pushing and shoving for a seat. So she stands in the aisle blocking and yells that if we crowd on the bus one more time like this, we will all have to walk to the middle school. And mind you, this was already a 10-minute drive. So out my stupidity, I yell I will, so she pulled me aside, kicked me off the bus and drove away. And my mom had to come pick me up. Open bracket. Edit. Thanks to all of you for the upvotes. This is the most I've ever gotten. I went to a Southside school in Chicago. Mainly with Hispanics, blacks, and Asians. This was middle school BTW. One time this boy, let's name him Tony, and this girl Jean had beef. She was constantly talking so much tea, and Tony pushed this girl so hard he shifted all of the 4 desk tables in the room. Then he grabbed her hair and started dragging her across the room and started to throw punches. Another time during recess, police officers came and arrested my Spanish teacher. He is like a 300-400 lb Mexican guy who was always really kind to the students. He used to tickle me when I was in 6th and 7th grade. Then only to find out and he grabbing girls' tits, jerking off in class, and many other things that sexually harassed girls. My ex-boyfriend at the time cussed my reading teacher out and made her cry. He called her a fat BTCH that doesn't know how to do anything but look like a F-king pear. Funny thing was, he was Asian and the valedictorian of our graduating class. Another time during recess, the tallest black girl from my class and a black midget started fighting. Lol. The midget still won. He was swinging on her hard as hell with them lil ass legs. Edit. 1. Forgot to mention the midget got expelled during 7th grade for bringing a gun to school. In 8th grade English class, my teacher didn't speak Spanish obviously. This teacher is strict. When I say strict, I mean like the kind of teacher to kick a kid out of a classroom because he sneezed during a test. So one of the quiet kids said some weird Spanish word under his breath, and this teacher went HT on him. We only speak proper English in this class. What did you just say, in a tone like a Karen? And with the smuggest look on his face he screams in English, IT means you're ABTCH, and she went F-king ballistic on him. Edit. Thanks to all of you for the upvotes. On the Friday before spring break, we were on the bus home. Some kid in the back threw a candy bar wrapper out the window. This wrapper happened to brush up against the truck of this dad. who was behind the bus having picked his daughter up in carpool. He then proceeded to follow our bus, honking and flashing all the way to the first bus stop. As one of the kids began to get off the bus, this dude storms up, shoves the kid back onto the bus, boards the bus, and begins to start screaming cusses. He then threatens the bus driver not to leave, since he is on the phone with the police. So he goes back and sits in his truck, while we all sit on the bus. Our bus driver told us not to get off, since she was genuinely afraid this dude would cause someone physical harm if they did. So we sat on the bus for a good half hour. Mind you, spring break in for our county in North Carolina is later than most schools. It was a hot, sunny day, and school buses aren't known for excellent AC. So we are all sitting in the bus, cooking. The kids in the back are yelling at the truck dude out the window. Someone recognized the dude's daughter, who had proceeded to cover her face in embarrassment. Eventually, these three guys had enough. They opened the emergency door in the back, hop out and run. Unfortunately, that's right when a motorcycle cop finally rolls up. The truck dude tackles one kid, the cop another. The third managed to get away, and he sprinted all the way to his house. The cop then talks to the kids, the dude, and lastly the bus driver. He sent the bus on its way within 5 minutes. Word got around. Turns out the dude got a very stern talking to from the cop for trespassing on county school property and using explicit language in the presence of minors. This was actually in 7th grade, but during Spanish class, two students started arguing over some stupid bullshit. Usually would just be verbal arguments, but things started to escalate shortly after it started. The girl came over to the boy and said, "Say it to my face." After some more verbal arguing, they started hitting each other. While I don't remember exactly who it was, one of the two got a chair and was about to throw it at the other. What baffles me the most is that our sub-Spanish teacher was there the entire time and was going along with the kids when they were verbally arguing. Instead of breaking the kids up when it got physical, he ran outside to get someone, which he could have done after. So yeah, some kids had to separate the two. This is unrelated, but me and my friends ended up getting him fired since we told our school counselor, who we were very familiar with, that he had called us retarded in class, which was indeed true. There was this really annoying kid that would always walk around like he owned the school. So annoying. Anyways, one day, he comes waltzing into the band room and just starts banging on the drums. There's a rule in our band room to not touch percussion instruments unless you are a percussionist. This kid was not. So we're sitting there watching him mess with the drums and this colored girl goes into the back. Comes back with her gun thing that they twirl around, not sure what it's called, and she just hits him with it. And so he runs. And she chases after him. It was legit. Posted this before. This happened either in my junior or senior year. New principal. A woman banned female students from bringing in their own pads and tampons due to some students sneaking in drugs inside them. If a female student needed one, they would have to go to the nurse's office, ask for a bathroom pass, then finally go back to the bathroom, and lastly back to class. It took forever, so teachers, even the males, hid pads, tampons in their desk to make it easier. Yet they soon also get banned to have stockpiles of them. The WTF moment was when the principal installed the red pants rule. If a female student or staff member had a period leak that stained their clothing, they had to go to the nurse off for dark red sweatpants, part of our school colors, and wear them till they get home. It just caused more bullying and became a game to some people. Try to spill red drinks on people or putting reddish brown paint of chairs for people to sit in. Students, staff, and parents threatened to sue the school and the principal. People were fake stain pants, even the guys did, to protest. Principal got rid of the rule and quit her job. We had a substitute teacher who didn't know one of the kids liked to pace the classroom. Teacher told the kid to sit down multiple times. Kid would keep responding with "I'm not a dog" until the sub threatened to report him to the dean. He yelled, "Okay, you deserve this," and reached into his bag, He was just F-king with everyone. But it was terrifying. Our school was in the middle of transitioning from one administration to the other. The soon-to-be admin put the previous one in bad taste. But everyone liked the previous one and would rather not have the new admin. They held a school gathering. And one student confronted the new school president through a mic'd Q&A. Everyone went berserk in that auditorium. Luckily, no one got suspended. But the new admin's still crappy by the time I graduated. My buddy fighting another kid behind our high school. Probably about 50 people showed up and were circling them as they were two of the biggest and roughest guys in school. Anyways, they started fighting, some blows were exchanged and a wild police car literally drove through some bushes, apparently knowing the fight was going to take place with its sirens blaring. Everyone ran. There was a refugee family from Sudan who moved to where I lived. A mom with 5 sons. I went to school with the 2 older sons in high school and became good friends with them. One day a kid who is known to be racist decides to go at one of them and drops a N-bomb as well as a couple of other racial demeaning comments. I go to fight the racist so my friend doesn't have extra issues because of recently coming to Canada. He took 2 steps and head kicked the guy and dropped him. The guy goes to get back up, eats another hard kick, and now I am trying to hold my friend back from killing the guy. The racist got kicked out. Apparently the school district got tired of his shit and all that happened to my friend was missing 2 days of school. RCMP decided not to press charges because of the known nature of the racist who would go out to native reserves to try and intentionally start fights. I was close friends with someone who had some anger issues. He was also a black belt in karate, which is important later on. We hung out all the time after school, but went to different schools. So, he had just transferred over to my high school sophomore year, I think. We both had similar classes, which I was happy about. Keep in mind, he has anger issues. So, first day, we're coming into class, side by side, and someone behind us just blurts out, "Hey new kid, who's your boyfriend?" At first he ignores him, but this dude just keeps harassing my friend. I tell my friend to just ignore him, but he keeps on going. Eventually, my friend just snaps and he just Mike Tysons this dude in the nose. He goes to the floor and my friend just starts beating the shit out of this man. Of course I'm freaking out cause my closest friend might get expelled. So me and a few other people separate the two. My friend's really strong, and they both go to the principal's office. Remarkably, they both get away with a 2-week suspension. But it was still crazy. TLDR. Some dude harassed my black belt friend with anger issues and gets the shit beat out of him. So this girl in my older sister's class, known for being a bitch, was just sitting down ignoring the substitute teacher they had that day. The teacher caught her falling asleep and cursing her under her breath multiple times, but the sub was pretty chill so she let it slide. She did it so many more times that she snapped and yelled at her. The whole class went quiet. Apparently, the guy sitting behind BTCH girl tied her shoelaces together. This girl was so out of focus and angry she didn't even notice. So, she flipped off the teacher and started to storm out of the room. I'm sure you can guess what happened next. TLDR. A girl flipped off the substitute teacher and fell face forward as she stormed out. Our high school was under construction my senior year, so we had to park in the neighboring streets or the middle school parking lot. I parked in the middle school lot one day and was heading to lunch, which didn't leave much time to get a bite and get back for class. Lunch hour was the same time the middle school kids would all be outside for recess. Me and a few friends have to drive the long way around the one-way parking lot. But all these kids are coming in from recess. I'm almost to the exit and noticed the middle school principal running after my car screaming. I say screw it and just kept going. The next day I'm called to the office and given a $500 fine and 8 points off my license for reckless endangerment of people or property. I ended up getting a lawyer and going to trial to fight the bullshit charges and won. Middle school principal didn't acknowledge my existence after I beat his ass in court. My friend who was into drugs and smoking sophomore year and JR year was challenged to a 3v3 to see who was the toughest in the high school. And as a not next to the school is a large park with a giant empty concrete square in the middle of the grass. They walked to the park and so did 60 or 70 students to record the fight. My friend and his 2 other friends fight fist to fist, but one of the kids on the other side had a switchblade, and then when people saw that blade, shit got real. The blade was grabbed out of this senior's hand while he was being punched and threw the switchblade into the forest. The kid that had the switchblade tried to run away, but they caught up to him and started beating him into the concrete floor. Needless to say, concrete and bones at a good match. The switchblade kid got a fractured skull and was bleeding from his nose and ear after the fight, and his other 2 druggy friends ran away after they saw what happened. My friend was charged for the fight and went to juvie for 5 months. I know PPL recorded it, but it occurred over 2 years ago. Graduate. On the last year I remember, a Russian kid, whose father is a boxer, started arguing with one of these jocks. He turns around and starts walking to me when a carton of juice hits his head and spill all over him. Boy oh boy. The jock's face was priceless when Vlad walks up to him and punches him so hard he was knocked to the ground and took 3 of his other jock friend with him. It was like in an action L movie. Peace. Vlad was my friend. Used to have this best friend. She was, put frankly, a bitch. We fell out because she accused me of talking badly behind her back. Well, after a lengthy argument of her being her usual self, calling me ugly, telling me to cut myself, saying I need to get a life, etc. I get to school. I walk into the canopy, outside my class, and she walks up to me. I just think oh fat and K, and she starts screaming in my face, come on. Scrap me. You want to scrap, to which I reply, will you piss off? And she just says the same thing back. Even though I wasn't the one shouting in her face. I'd say until she went away I was particularly calm. I lost it when she walked off into class. This type of thing carried on for 2 more days. Safe to say she didn't do anything. During senior year in my math class there was a girl, let's say girl 1 and girl 2. I knew who came up to this other girl who was sitting in her desk and started talking shit to her. I don't remember the reason exactly, honestly. But anybody who had heard it must have thought they weren't being serious, including myself. Then girl 2 stood up and got in girl 1's face talking shit back. At this point most likely all of us thought no way they're actually gonna fight, but now they started grabbing and fighting each other. Our teacher was an old small Asian lady. Super cool. Loved to fit in with the kids and was a tough lady. She was telling them beforehand okay enough, but that didn't work. So she tried to break them up and we're all just watching like holy shit in the classroom. The teacher ended up getting knocked down and hitting the wall while the 2 girls were still fighting. As soon as she fell, I and some other dudes immediately jumped up and tried pulling the girls apart. It was stupidly tough, but eventually we pulled them apart and security came to take them to the office. The teacher was okay. Little hurt, but still went on to teach for the remainder of the period.